Well, it's Chords and Coffee, and today this is a special one because I've got my good old buddy Nash here, who you know from different Nate and Nash demo videos. But even more exciting than that, and Nash, don't get me wrong, you are just a circus of excitement. I've got Ken Haas, look at him hiding behind that Reverend, and Mr. Joe Naylor, and we're going to talk about Reverend guitars. Guys, I was thinking about this in the universe of electric guitar. There's a lot of guitars that are ultimately playing off the theme of something that was made in the 50s. And it's a super short list of guitars that are doing something that is forward, innovative, while simultaneously shaking hands with the past and acknowledging all the great things that have come before. And you guys do that in a way that is super cool, super exciting. The list of artists that you have on your roster is incredibly diverse. And you're doing, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff. You're doing a lot of things, especially in terms of live music, that are just forward thinking. Is that fair to say?
100%.
Yeah. And so we wanted to have you on the Chords and Coffee show to talk about that. But also, one of the big things of Chords and Coffee is we are here to encourage guitar players. We have this thing that we say all the time is that we're doing life best we can with the guitar in our hand. And so with that being said, we're just going to talk about life, talk about family. And at this point, I'll kick it over to you guys, and I'll ask you the first question here. Unpack what it means to be wild forever.
That's a tough one. Neither of us, I hate to speak for Joe on this, but I will to a certain extent, but neither of us have really slowed down any as time has gone on. We have both put kids through school and either through college or into college. And we're both still making music, and we're both still listening to music, and we like the stuff that we've always liked our whole lives. But the artists that are on our roster never cease to surprise or amaze us, and we're still excited about what we do, and we want that to show. And that, to me, is what Wild Forever was actually thrown to us by the guys who put our website was new as of last year, and was the guys who put our new website together. And when Joe and I saw that, we were like, yeah, that embodies my field. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, what Ken said, but as far as our personal lives, I mean, yes, we still like doing the things that we've been doing for decades, and we enjoy it. And let's face it, this is a wild industry. You guys know it. You know what it's like. But as far as it applies to the brand, I guess, going back to what you were saying about our artist roster, for example, we have a lot of young people, a lot of new and up and coming bands, independent bands who have that wild attitude. And these are people in their 20s, 30s. So we're always looking forward, and we're just big music fans and guitar fans ourselves. So we see something that's exciting or a band that's exciting, we want to talk to them. We want to work with them. And that's what keeps us both going in this business. I mean, we still like going to NAMM shows, which is really freaking weird. Okay. Most people are like, oh man,
I'll see you at NAMM.
It's going to be exciting. We're going to show our new stuff, maybe meet some new artists. So we still love doing this. So I guess we'll stay wild for a little while anyways.
No, you know what? That's a great answer. And I think it's so important, if you're watching this and maybe for whatever reason, you are not as dialed in to Reverend as you should be. One of the things I love about both of you guys is that you both still play. You're out there doing the deal. You're doing music. And
that's what I was going to say is for sure. Ahead. So many people in the industry, they'll get into this because they love music. And then it becomes almost like a cautionary, like Christmas tale. They sort of become Scrooge, like, I've forgotten what the meaning of Christmas is about. And they stop playing and it becomes a desk job.
Yeah.
I don't play in bands because I do this for a living. I do this for a living because I play in bands. And that's what introduced me to Joe. And I've always kept that going. And actually for a long time, I took pains to kind of keep the two worlds separate from one another, because I always felt like I never wanted anybody to judge the business based on what I was outperforming live. And then at some point I just decided I didn't care anymore, because I do some pretty wacky bands, and I love it. And there's nothing more fun to me than touring with my band, Jay Navarro and the Traders. We go out on the road quite a bit. In the last 5 years, we've been to England and Japan, and we've toured all over the US. We did 12 dates on the West Coast last summer. We play all around the Midwest and the East Coast all the time. And I love when I'm out with the band and somebody will pull our band leader, Jay, somebody will pull him aside and say, "Hey man, what's with all the reverence? That's really cool. Are you guys like endorsed or something?" And then I get to hear Jay go,
Kinda.
"You're not going to believe this." But that dude over there, yeah, man, it's cool. It's a thrill. And I never get tired of it. How about you, Naylor? You're kicking around a new burning things or a new something at this point.
New something at this point. Instrumental band I'm working on. But the interesting thing is when you continue to play, and in Ken's case, Ken's always in 2 or 3 bands at any given time. It gives you a closer connection to what people want too. So when I go to design a guitar, I can reference Ken or myself or some of these bands and really get an inside look on what people want today and what's current, what the attitude is, and if you lose contact with what's going on out there, that's dangerous. Yeah. So I think it's a luxury for us to be able to still play music and connect with the current musicians. And, we're just going to keep doing it. And besides the personal satisfaction, it is very beneficial to the company as well. And the design process for me personally, because it's easy to lose touch, if you just stay locked up in your room or whatever, you got to get out there, you got to get dirty and see what's going on.
Man, Joe, I love it. I tell you what, real quick, I got 2 questions for you. Number one, could you show us the sword that you're taking on this new quest that's right over there?
This little old thing?
Yeah, lift that up so we can see that bad boy.
Excalibur.
Look at that.
Get close up there.
Yeah, you gotta do the trim thing.
Oh yeah, and this not available yet.
Look at this. That's pretty cool. So right now there's somebody watching this that's gotten started music. They've probably already raised their kids, right? And they are trying to find the time to devote to not only practice, but they're listening to both of you guys and they're going, God, I'd love to be in a band. I would love to be doing that. And it's not like you guys had this big glut of time that's different than everybody else, because to your point, music retail, it's tough. I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing that we're doing, answering messages on a Sunday night. And, I'm like, I live in Ozark, Missouri, and there's Silver Dollar City. It's like a theme park. It's really cool. It's close. And so I'm like literally standing in line in Silver Dollar City with my family and with my kids, and somebody's texting me about, hey, when's the blah, blah, blah. And that's just that's the life. Good or bad, it is what it is. And we all know about that, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you do? And I want to use this as a platform to encourage, the guys, especially, there's dads, a lot of dads are, drinking coffee with us right now and watching this. How do you find the time to make this musical part of your life work when it feels like time is being stolen away every second?
That's a good question. I'm going to be 63 next month. Okay. You just got to find the time. If you've already decided that you don't have the time, then you're not going to do it. And I've been there. This last band I had, last time we played was maybe a year ago or something. Prior to that, I hadn't played in a band since '86. Back when I was in Kalamazoo at Nate's alma mater, Western Michigan. Go Broncos, right?
Hey, baby.
Yeah. But so there was a long period where I wasn't playing at all. And, I had 3 kids in the business and whatnot. But I think you just got to mentally decide, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make time. And Ken, I don't even know how Ken does it. How do you do it, Ken?
I've never not done it.
He doesn't sleep, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't sleep much. No, but I've been gigging for 35 plus years now. And I've never not. It comes and goes in waves. I mean, sometimes I'm a lot busier than I am in other times, but when people ask me about this, I usually tell them, there's guys out there that have snowmobiles and go up north, and there's guys out there that have motorcycles and ATVs and do that, and people that have classic cars and people that have model trains and people that have all this, and they devote their time to those things. And that's cool, man. Whatever anybody's into, that's fine. Boats, for crying out loud. That'll chew up your whole life, right? Having a boat. I do this. I don't have, those other things to pursue. So this is where I've chosen to spend my time. So, my night that I would spend out with my boys going on a bowling league, I spend with my boys rehearsing, mm-hmm. And a couple of the bands that I'm in have been going long enough that we don't rehearse on a weekly basis. We get together once or twice a month, and that's okay. And then I'm lucky too, as far as touring and things is concerned, that this is what I do for a living. So because I make the schedules here, I can block out time to go on the road with the band. And then I just incorporate sales into that. And while we're on the road, I hit dealers and do things to, make it worthwhile. And then of course, in this day and age, unfortunately, at times you can stay in touch wherever you are, right, Nate? So I'm checking emails and doing stuff while I'm out on the road too. So like Joe said, it's just a matter of making the time to do what you want to do. And I am very fortunate that I run this business with my wife, Penny, and she agrees that these pursuits are all worthwhile when it comes to our whole lifestyle. So she supports me in doing that and helps me by making sure that everything is taken care of around here when I'm gone. Joe, I see you have a friend. Somebody joined you there.
Oh, yeah. This is the newest member of the household. This is Izzy.
Hi, Izzy.
Izzy has joined the chat.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, man, God bless Penny for that. It's so great to have that support system. And Nash, did you want to chime in with anything?
Oh, I was just going to say, if you really love something, you'll find time for it. That's something my granddad used to say to me a lot. And the older I get, the more I find that to be true. Whenever I feel like I'm too tired to play my instrument, I sit and I think, no, are you too tired to play your instrument? Or are you tired because you're working all the time and you're not doing something that fills your cup?
Right.
So it's like going to the gym when it's the middle of the winter and you feel terrible. It's like, I know going to the gym is going to make me feel better, but it's making yourself do it and just getting in the habit of realizing like, it's not work, it's fun. And that's the sort of thing that's going to make me want to do it more often, is just getting in the habit of making it a part of your daily routine and prioritizing the things you love.
Yeah, but I need to go to the gym more, because I can tell you right now,
I do too.
And pie. Yep. Anyway,
that never changes. I do too.
Yeah. Well, hey, so speaking of playing live music,
yes.
You guys have, Ken, you're actually coming to us from a really cool studio, and part of your belief and not only being out there in the community and, being boots on the ground in real time, to Joe's point, sort of doing, R&D, because you're out there, playing, and it's like, what are people wanting? What are people needing? What's the word on the street? That kind of thing. You guys also, you're bringing the community in, and you have a studio and you're doing live music right there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We spent a good 6 months this year building out a studio here at the Circle R Ranch. I acquired, for a long time, I only rented about 3/4 of our building, and I finally got the back unit to myself. And so we built a video studio back here from the ground up, a couple new walls in the corner, and we built a stage and soundproofed everything properly, and wired everything together. I got all the new Focusrite gear from our friends at Focusrite, and we really decked this place out. And so it's set up for live performance. There's a selection of amps. There's drums set up at all times. We have a separate sound engineer that'll come in so that it's designed. Where we're located in Toledo, Ohio, is a really cool crossroads between bands going east and west and north and south. We're about an hour south of Metro Detroit. We're in between Cleveland and Chicago off of the main thoroughfare 80-90 Turnpike here, and north-south 75. And so a lot of bands come through this area on their way to all the different markets that are around here. So we can have everything set up and ready to go. And a band on the road can pop in here and just bring in their guitars and pedal boards, and we can have them dialed in a half an hour and get 3 songs out of them. And we've had bands in and out of here in as fast as an hour and 15 minutes. Wow. And then, of course, we take some time. We do 3 camera shoots. We take some time to professionally edit the sound down, and we are putting that material out now. So far, we've had about 6 bands through here, and it's been amazing. We had Mike Watt in here with MSSV, and of course, Greg Koch and the Koch Marshall Trio have been here, but also some younger bands like Honey Revenge and Carpool, legendary rock bands. We had Sponge in here. We don't have at this moment. Nice. We're mixing down the Sponge videos and working on that. A band that I toured with last summer, Kill Lincoln, a great ska band. And one of our friends, label mates from Bad Time Records, were in here last weekend. And I have so much stuff booked, like so many cool things from all different styles of music, just the common thread being the Reverends. And that's what we're going for. We want to show off all of the different generations and all of the different styles of music that are using Naylor's designs. And this room seems to be the best way to do it. Just seeing them in action is the proof of concept, right? And there are so many people vying for that, trying to get the band's attention, get our attention now in advertising. And we're paying with our advertising partners. We pay thousands of dollars to produce this kind of content. And so with that on the horizon, why not just invest it ourselves and do it all ourselves? And then we set up this really cool little interview area too. So I do a live show from here every Friday morning at 11 a.m. And lately I've been bringing in people from around the industry, not just musicians that are playing our stuff, but also different builders. I had the master builder from Heritage Guitars in here last week. And I have pedal makers lined up. I have Jen from Soldier Straps in here. So other people from around the industry, just so we can talk about their experiences and see what everybody's doing.
I'm going to tell you, Greg Koch is like one of my favorite guitar players that has ever lived. I love that guy, and he's hilarious. I've never met him. I will eventually.
He's basically Nate's spirit animal.
It's my spirit animal. Yeah, that's Greg. Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
And so with that being said, that's how I discovered the Circle R Ranch Studios, was from a Koch Marshall Trio. I was watching that. I was like, look, and the way you guys are shooting it, like the lighting is unique in that, and it's because this was kind of a darker video, you know what I mean? And it looked, I was like, where is this? Where's this club? And I realized, oh, this is your thing. And I could see this continuing to evolve and grow into something. Where would you like to see this in like 5 years?
Oh, I mean, I would like to see it become a regular stop for music lovers in general, as opposed to just guitar oriented stuff. I would like this to, I mean, if you're going to have goals, right? But yeah. I mean, obviously we were inspired to do this by shows like NPR's Tiny Desk and things of that nature, where you really see what the artist is doing and you're really listening to them play live. And so I would like to have enough content, and have enough bands in various styles of bands in here that the band's fan bases start to come here to look for other things as well. And that people can look at what we've done to discover new things to be into, because that's the coolest. I love it when people say stuff to me like, oh, I've been a fan of Greg's for years. And so, so he dialed me into the Reverend thing, and man, I can't believe I saw the video he did with Bob Balch from Fu Manchu, and now I'm all into Fu Manchu. I can't believe what a great guitar player that guy is. And so when I see people going like way outside of their thing to discover something new, that's the best part of this whole deal. You know what I mean? And that's what I hope the Circle R Studios will evolve into over time.
I love that so much, because I think you're running into the same thing we are. You spend all this money on advertising, trying to get the word out to people. And after a certain point, you're thinking about the internet and you're like, what is it about the internet that's changed people? And you're like, oh, it's impersonal. So then you think, well, why am I spending all this time getting the word out? Why don't I just bring them in and pull back the veil? And you were talking about, your fusion of your work life and, your passions. And at a certain point, when you stop drawing that line and you fuse those two things together, you become your most authentic self. And I think it works that way with like companies as well. People want to know who you are and what you're about. They want to look inside and decide for themselves, if you're the sort of people, that they want to work with or buy a product from. So I think what you're doing is brilliant, because you're giving them an inside look on who you guys are as people and what you value and care about.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. And what's the old saying? Talk is cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this new stage, the Reverend Not So Tiny Desk, I guess you could call it. One of the things for me is people often ask me, like, what's the most gratifying thing about doing this? And easily it's seeing it on stage, seeing the product that you made being used, delivering the goods and whatnot on stage. And part of Reverend's marketing has always been, we make stage ready guitars, and not just saying that, no BS. Well, now we got a stage. So there it is. If you don't believe us, go look. Here it is. Go see the video. And like you saw the Greg Koch video, the production and the sound and the way it's lit and the way the stage is done, Ken and the crew have just done an incredible job on it. I mean, it looks like something, you would see on a major TV station or something, you know what I mean? But, if you're going to talk about how stage ready your guitars are, then this is one way to really show it, and without having to pummel the customer. They can just view it and decide for themselves, and there it is, and it's full of glory. So it's been a boon, and I think this is we're just scratching the surface of this thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, started. Yeah, and we're going to have some besides all the people he mentioned, there's going to be some major people coming through the pipeline, and it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Joe, I did want to ask you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, there's a couple of notes too. I mean, on all that, and a couple of things that make all this so make it possible and make it so gratifying for us. Guys like Greg and Billy Corgan. And women like, Stacey D and Lynn and Jen Wesner, Michelle Ndegeocello, these instruments that we make, when we make these signature models for these guys, you guys are selling the exact guitars that these guys are playing live. So if you saw that Cure tour last year and you were all excited about the Reeves Cabral Space Hawk, when we sell that guitar to you, it is set up exactly the same way they are that goes to Reeves. There's no difference. The guitars that Greg played in here in the studio are guitars that could have come right off the shelf for us. We don't do anything special or whatever. And that is all the effort that Joe puts into the guitars with the artists before the guitars are even released, because we don't believe that there should be some sort of like, Joe made this in his basement. It's really special for Greg, but we're going to sell you this with Greg's name on it. We don't do any of that here. And the other thing, the thing that makes that possible, and the thing that I think that we have that's special, is Reverend Guitars is Joe, me, Penny, and our employees here. Mm-hmm. Joe and I don't have to answer to anybody but each other. And we're one of the last like family owned businesses in this industry, it seems like to me. The more I talk to people and see what's going on out there, and obviously there are a lot of family owned businesses still, but a lot of avenues of the guitar industry themselves seem to just be such like a corporate thing. And yeah, we're a big company and we have bills to pay and we have all of that stuff, but we're able to sort of turn on a dime or make decisions to do things that we want to do. And again, wait till you see some of the stuff that we have coming this year. It's amazing because we don't have this legacy that we have to live up to. We're not, we can explore and have fun and do things. And that's the whole point of all of it. Right, Joe?
Yes, we can be wild forever, Ken.
We can be wild forever. Look at that. Tied it back.
Segue.
Well done, Joe. It's funny. So Palen Music is a family owned and operated business. And it's funny because when you were talking about that,
literally the owners are right around the corner.
Yeah. Well, literally, Nash and I were in a meeting this morning with Brett Palen and Alec Palen. And, when it's family,
they have a personal stake in it.
Yes, exactly what I was just going to say. Thank you. Is that, you got a different layer of skin in the game. It is to the bone. And, so to that point, as you were naming off all those artists, like they couldn't be, the commonality is they're all very unique. Greg is a very interesting character, right? Billy Corgan, he's, outspoken. He's got some stuff to say. And, all these folks are, because they are so, Michelle, because they are so artistically unique, it seems like, and here's the question, was it a chicken and the egg thing? Did you make the instrument to suit the artist, or were you making something that they gravitated towards you and then you guys collaborated on something naturally together? Because you guys have a unique vibe, just again, like while you were talking about the video thing, I pulled it up and looked at it. It's like, it really doesn't look like anything else that's out there, what you're doing with the lighting, which is what you want. Right. And that's the whole Reverend thing. It's like when you see a Reverend from 25 feet, it doesn't look like just another cool guitar that was made from the 50s. Is that a fair way to say it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got its own vibe to it. And, that Joe, I would love to hear you unpack that a little bit. Like there's some fearlessness. There's some fearlessness that you have to have in your DNA to do that.
To the first point about the artists, we tend to attract unique artists probably because the product's unique, right? It's not like we're out there pursuing them. Of course, we have pursued some artists, but most of it is that they pursue us initially. They see something they like or their tech does, and then we strike up a relationship. But we tend to attract the more unique players. And to your other point, you mentioned the 50s. Okay, so anybody knows anything about guitar design knows that everything was designed. All the big ones were all done in the 50s. Strat, Telly, Les Paul, 335, and then there's everything else, right? And the thing is, I don't shy away from those influences at all. I embrace them. I've studied all the classics pretty thoroughly. Also spent 10 years in Kalamazoo. Used to hang out down at Heritage. which was, of course, formerly Gibson. Kalamazoo is a very guitar historic town. So initially, you know, I'm very influenced by all those designs, and you can obviously see them. My mission is to take those vintage influences and whatever, and put a spin on it, for lack of a better word. But you can look at the body of a Reverend and tell what my influences are. But at the same time, I'm hoping you can look at it and say, okay, that looks like a Reverend. And that's really the challenge. And it's a challenge marketing something like that, because you guys know this better than anybody. Okay. So the dude walks in with an orange mohawk, right? What's he buy? A Les Paul, guitar design in 1952. So it's kind of a conservative industry. The mentality is very conservative. But every day we keep trying to chip away at that, you know, which is tough. If it's too classic, then people say, oh, it's just a knockoff, right? If it's too wild, then they're like, no, that's too crazy. I don't like the way that looks. So you got to find that balance. You got to walk that narrow line, and that's what we try and do. And at this point, we've done it so long that I feel like we've kind of established an identity. People have a certain expectation for how it's going to look. And of course, we're focusing this right now on aesthetics, which that's another thing. People ask me, like, what do you do when you design a guitar? What's the most important thing? Okay. Well, the hardest thing is designing a headstock and designing a body shape. Everything after that is easy. Those are the two hardest things, because if you screw those up, you're done. And a guitar people forget this. A guitar is something you wear. It's like wearing a shirt or a hat or a coat. It's making a personal statement. Okay. You know, the way it looks, the color, the shape of it. A lot of guys won't admit this, but it's like buying clothes almost.
Oh, sure. No, it's like we were talking about before. You were like, hey, here's my new guitar, and for my new project. It's a new sword for a new quest. And with that, I would love to know, like, so when I think of Reverend too, it's, you know, the low contour thing is something that's like, you know, that was like one of the first things I was like, what is this knob?
And
right?
Why is this not on every guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah. The bass contour, which is basically a passive bass roll off. Mm-hmm. And that evolved from working with Ron Ashton from Iggy Pop and the Stooges. Ron Ashton, R.I.P., of course. But when he first approached us, he wanted several stage guitars for the tour coming up, and he was really into like P90s at the time.
That makes perfect sense.
But a lot of the classics Iggy stuff was done with a Strat, with a much thinner, brighter sound. And he's like, well, you know, I got to be able to get that Strat sound, or Iggy will yell at me on certain songs. So
you don't want Iggy.
So he had to get the Strat sound, and also no orange. that was one of Iggy's rules: no orange on stage. 2 rules: no jazz, no orange. But
that's got to be on a shirt somewhere. That needs to be on a T-shirt.
I digress. But so I built him this guitar with P90s, and I thought, how can I make this sound like a Strat? So I came up with this bass roll off thing, which rolls off specific frequencies and makes the pickup sound thinner. It basically revoices it to sound thinner. So he had this guitar, you go from P90, roll it back, and it sounded like a thinner Strat type sound. But that's how that evolved, and we liked it, and players liked it, so we put it on everything.
See, I love that so much because I've never been a fan of splitting coils. They never ever sound right to me personally. I know lots of people do love them. There's a reason they're around, but for me personally, like, so my first Reverend, which I got probably 7 years ago, was a Jetstream, and I'd been playing Strats before that. So once I got that guitar, and I use lots of fuzz. I love just sonic filth. So the way I've always used it is I love a big muff, but a big muff doesn't always work on everything. So I like a fat, clean sound, but when I kick on the big muff, it's too much. So with that control, I can thin it out and suddenly I sit in a mix again, which is what I love when you said like our guitars are stage ready. That was like the first thing I thought about because yeah, treble controls are great, but more often than not, I'm trying to revoice the bass on the fly to work with another guitar player or an unruly fuzz pedal. So I don't know. I think that's such a simple but brilliant thing to add to a product because that has helped me out in a jam more times than I can possibly count.
Well, thanks. And like I said, it was, I think Gibson might have done it way back in the day, a very crude version. And then G&L was doing it for a bit and they may still do it. But I think what we did is we kind of revoiced it and made it, in my opinion, more useful. But again, going back to the coil tap thing, coil taps, usually the output is too low when you tap a humbucker. Also, the hum comes back. You get noise. With the bass contour, you roll it off and you don't get any noise, and you still get kind of a single coil type tone. So that's another advantage there, especially with the fuzz situation. Like you were saying, you love big muffs, but big muffs don't always love you. So yeah, it helps.
And that is exactly, by the way, what Robin Fink said when we were working on his Sensei, which actually doesn't have a proper tone control. It only has a bass contour. And he had the same thing with the clean tone fuzz pedal thing. And he just said, yeah, I don't even have any use for the regular tone control. It's never anything I've ever touched. Don't touch it. And then this bass contour thing is an actual usable thing for his sound too. So, but it was funny because you almost said what he said to me word for word when we were putting that guitar together for him. And yeah, it is very interesting what it'll do with overdrives. And also, like Joe's has some notoriety from the original Naylor amplifiers in the early 90s. And one of his the best design over there, in my opinion, is the Super Drive 60. And I know Joe likes one of the combos too, but it's such a great sounding amp, single channel amp. The louder you get it and the harder you push it, the better it sounds. And it is an amp that is so easily controlled with just the volume control on your guitar, like everything that's great about an early Marshall. And you just roll off the volume to have a clean sound, right? And then roll in the volume and boom, you're rocking. But the bass contour in that situation is also just incredible. If you're running through a loud, small wattage amp and you have that amp totally cranked, the bass contour voices the amp in ways that you never really thought of as possible too. So it opens up a lot of sonic mayhem. I'm definitely one of these guys that just plays with everything wide open all the time. So the subtleties of all of that stuff are lost on me. But then I watch our artists do things and I'm like, whoa, how did it go there? So yeah, man, it's cool.
Well, speaking of sonic mayhem, is there any way you could give us a little peek into 2024? Maybe some teases, maybe some hints, maybe just a little, I'm not asking for a Chords and Coffee exclusive, but maybe just a little sonic mayhem, a little lift of the mayhem.
A little sugar.
Yeah.
We're going to be getting down low with Billy Corgan again. That's going to be cool. You should be looking for something along those lines around the NAMM show. Things are going to get awfully colorful around the NAMM show as well. And then we've got some classic, we have some signature models coming out with some young bands and some legendary guys in the first half of next year. There's a whole lot happening, and it's hard to break it all out because things are happening so quickly and developing and changing so quickly that we are plotting our path right now as to when you are going to see these things. So it's hard for me to even give you a teaser because I don't want to tease something that not happened till the spring. But we're going to be bringing a lot of cool new guitars to the NAMM show, for sure.
Well, definitely excited for that. Go ahead, Joe.
Ken's keeping me very busy. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already talking about 2025 and beyond. I'm literally working on some stuff for 25. But it's endless at this point, the amount of projects. And I think 24 is going to be pretty radical. You're going to see some crazy stuff. So stay tuned. I guess that's all I can say. I don't want to say too much. Ken might have me killed or something, but
well, he wasn't.
It'd be counterproductive, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It is so much fun to have. Can you imagine though? I mean, like, we have a backlog of ideas, and there's a backlog of ideas that Joe has shown me over the last 3 or 4 years. That's like, hey, I really want to do this. And then we have these artist things come up that are so interesting and unique that they keep pushing some of these production ideas behind. And now we're to the point where we have to like pump the brake on the artist thing and be like, we have this whole thing that we want to do that we need to get to. And it's incredible to me that the artists that we work with, I mean, look at Reeves Gabrels and Pete Anderson alone. Pete will call us. And like at one point, this was a couple of years ago, as we were coming out of the end of all the COVID stuff, we were already making 3 versions of his Eastsider guitar. And Pete comes to me with an idea for a 4th version. And when he started the sentence, I was like, oh, boy, I don't know about, he's like, how many versions of this can we do? And then he lays the idea on me and I'm like, oh, I got to talk to Joe about this. This is brilliant. And then I talked to Joe and Joe's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the Eastsider Custom comes out of it, which has been, we can't keep it in stock this year. And this is the 4th go around of that guitar that we've done with Pete in the last 12 years. That's amazing and exciting. Yeah, it's super exciting for me. I'm around this stuff every day and I'm still like, and then we have a version of that guitar coming out next year and you guys will be in on it. Just wait till you see it. Because we started doing these things with our high volume dealers where we'll limit the production. You guys have the new Double Agent OG that we just launched last week, and Pearl White with the Bigsby and Gold, beautiful guitar. We're going to be addressing that Eastsider Custom in that series. That's all I'm going to say. But wait till you see this guitar. You guys are going to be like, oh, we talked about that on the show. Yes. It's so killer. It is really fun to do something that I can still be excited about, and Joe has so many ideas that I completely forgot one of them. And he and I went to Chicago last week to do a thing with Corgan. And while we were sitting there discussing ideas on dinner the night before, I was reminded of this whole series of guitars that he's got in his head that I was like, oh, I can't wait I want one. You know what I mean? Like, we have to get around to doing that because I want one of those really bad. And so, yeah, there's plenty of stuff on the way, on the horizon, y'all. Can't
awesome.
Wait.
It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, we are at wrap up time. Cool. But I want to give you one extra question for both of you guys. But before we do that, Chords and Coffee family, I hope you see what just wonderful human beings Ken and Joe are and how passionate they are about not just making guitars, but playing guitars. And that makes all the difference. They're passionate about music. They're passionate about new and exciting music. And they're passionate about people expressing themselves in the way that's unique unto them. And they have instruments that facilitate that. And if you haven't gotten your hands on a Reverend, you might ought to. Hopefully this little video here has got you encouraged to go to your favorite Palen Music Center nearest you and get your hands on one of those. But in the meantime, one thing I really want to do, because encouragement is super important to me. It has marked my life. And part of encouragement is expressing gratitude for stuff that's in your life that you ought to be thankful for. And there's somebody in both of y'all's lives, and maybe it's each other. Who knows? No pressure there. You don't have to do that. But there's somebody that right now is watching this that you want to say, you know who I'm grateful for? I'm grateful for this person. We're going to start with Joe, and then we'll do Ken, and we'll wrap this thing up. Go ahead.
Okay, Nate. Well, I'd be remiss not to mention my wife, Kristen, of course. People don't know this, but the first decade of Reverend, she basically ran the company. She was in there every day, doing the paperwork, making sure the bills get paid, and whatever was necessary. So yeah, my wife Kristen and my family too. It's you guys know this. Doing this is not easy. I mean, I was working 80, 90 hours a week for a minute there, and you have to make some sacrifices on the home front to do that. So there's no way I could have done it, without this full support of my wife and my entire family. So yeah.
Amen to that. How about it, Ken?
I have to thank both Joe and Kristen for giving me the opportunity to be here to begin with, because when I started working for them as their sales director full-time while they were running the company together, and then one thing led to another, and Joe was spending a little too much time doing paperwork and wanted to spend a little more time doing guitars. And so Penny and I were able to come in, and basically Penny and I took over for Kristen.
True.
Really, truly. But Penny's support in this has been unbelievable. I mean, one of the jokes that I get to, lightheartedly make all the time, but it's kind of true. I have a massive guitar collection, and I always have, and I'm always buying and selling and trading and going to shows. And it was one of the things that threw Joe and when in the early days, Joe and I just went to all the guitar shows together, and then we started dragging Penny to the guitar shows with us. And I love all of that stuff. And you always, when guys find out that I have a lot of guitars, they're like, "What did she tell you?" Like, well, I'd get one of those, but I don't know if I can tell my wife that I'm bringing another guitar home, and or my husband in this day and age. By the way, I literally had that conversation this weekend, and I always tell them, I came home one day, and not only did I talk my wife into me bringing home a new guitar, but I talked her into buying a guitar company with me. And so anything is possible.
That's next level.
It is. It's totally next level. And then we buckled in. We had mentioned this a little bit before we went on the show here today. When I started working for Joe full time, I had real little kids, and Penny stayed home. We made the decision for her to stay home with the kids when they were small. And then as the kids started getting more self-sufficient, she started getting more and more involved here, to the point where now she deals with all of our advertisers and runs all of our social media and helps me with marketing around the NAMM show and all the things that she does. And I wouldn't be here to begin with without her support and without us putting our lives on the line in order to make this happen. And I wouldn't be here without Joe's innovation. I mean, one of the things that makes Reverend such a special deal is that Joe and I were friends. And then I went to work for Joe, and that didn't ruin that relationship, which is hard. And then those roles reversed, and that hasn't ruined the relationship. And we're still friends after all of this. And we've been through a lot together over the last, 20 years now. And we still have that relationship together. And it's the two of us together that makes this thing work. And so I think it's awesome. And I am thankful to all of you. So, and I am thankful to you guys, man, because if it weren't for you guys, there wouldn't be any of us. So thank you very much for having us on today.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Nash, thank you for being a part of this too. And guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm going to tell you, the Chords and Coffee viewers, the Chords and Coffee family, it's the most encouraging collection of guitar humanity on the face of the earth, at least on the face of the internet. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for getting up every Saturday morning watching this. And we'll see you next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time for another Chords and Coffee.